The truth is, Zelensky will have to keep fighting until death. The US and NATO are not allowing Zelensky to stop the war with Russia. If he doesn't obey, we all know what his fate will be. Hello, everyone. Ukraine is facing a very narrow window to shift the momentum of the conflict in its favor. Despite any efforts, Russian forces still hold most of the strategic cards. In a recent article published in the National Interest, author Daniel Davis mentioned that since the outbreak of the conflict, he has warned that there is no path, regardless of resources, for Ukraine to achieve a complete military defeat of Russia in the near future. According to him, Russia possesses superior resources and manpower that Ukraine cannot defeat. He added that, unfortunately, Kiev has largely ignored his warnings, while Moscow has successfully implemented several factors he outlined. The expert explains that Russia is a major power with many strengths, vast natural resources, several key allies that can supply war materials, a large and expanding military industry, and a manpower pool 3 times larger than Ukraine's. He emphasizes that Moscow's strategy hinges on 2 pillars: military capability, personnel, weapons, ammunition, and industrial and political support from the public. Without both, they cannot fight or win the war. Therefore, for Ukraine to gain any strategic advantage over Russia, it will have to disrupt the opponent's focus enough to force Moscow to accept an undesirable outcome. This will be extremely difficult. Meanwhile, Russia's most important strategic goal is to reduce the conventional threat on its western border to a manageable level. Currently, Moscow is in control and can achieve its political goals with its military and financial resources. Thus, Kiev must change its strategy. However, to determine whether this is a solvable problem, it is necessary to consider Ukraine's capabilities and the support from Western countries. President Vladimir Zelensky must simultaneously maintain the ability to wage war over time, political support at home, and international economic, diplomatic, and military support. Without any of these, especially the third component, international support, Ukraine cannot win. Russia has abundant natural resources across the country and a strong industrial capacity to sustain almost indefinitely during wartime. Comparing resources and public support, Davis argues that Ukraine faces severe limitations in natural resource supplies and has only a fraction of Russia's domestic production capacity. Without substantial, sustainable diplomatic and material support from the rest of the world, Kiev cannot conduct a prolonged war of attrition. Even with external support, Kiev might not win due to its weakest point, military manpower. Military manpower is not just about how many people are in uniform, but also about how many trained professionals can be mobilized into organized and effective combat units. However, Ukraine is also severely lacking in recruits, and those who join the military are not adequately trained. In a recent study by the Royal United Services Institute, expert Alex Vinin highlighted a little understood fact: the idea that a civilian can undergo 3 months of training, hold the rank of sergeant, and be expected to fight like a soldier with 7 years of experience is a recipe for disaster. According to Vinin, only time can create individuals capable of executing NATO's military doctrine, and time is something a war of attrition cannot afford. Meanwhile, support for President Zelensky is rapidly declining both domestically and internationally. International aid, despite being poured into Ukraine recently, is running out due to Russia's attrition strategy. The window of opportunity for Kiev to turn the tide is closing fast. Bold and decisive actions are necessary and quick if Ukraine is to have a chance of success. However, it is crucial to determine what success can be achieved at this point. As warned from the beginning, a complete military victory for Kiev is now almost impossible because Russia has too many resources, not to mention the nuclear card that Ukraine can hardly overcome in the current circumstances. In June, Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin issued minimum demands to end the war, such as Ukraine must fully cede control of the 4 provinces annexed by Russia in 2022, withdraw all Ukrainian forces from those territories, and adopt a neutral, non-aligned, non-nuclear status. President Zelensky rejected this as an ultimatum for surrender. So how can Ukraine avoid this undesirable outcome, and what can it do with the current imbalance of power? Without major changes in the war goals of the West and Ukraine, Moscow's ultimatum is highly likely to be implemented. Kiev's most realistic hope is to hold on to all the territories it currently has, not cede any more land, and negotiate to end the conflict. But we must acknowledge that it may be too late to expect even that minimal outcome. What must Ukraine do? The U.S. Congress approved a $61 billion aid package for Ukraine in April 2013. But to achieve results, Ukraine will need to successfully mobilize an additional 300,000 troops in the coming months, receive at least 500,000 artillery shells, 7 more air defense systems, hundreds of armored vehicles of all kinds, and tens of thousands of UAVs. Kiev will need to strengthen all defense lines along the front. According to the author, if Ukraine does not massively increase its mobilization goals, and NATO does not provide more than what they are currently committed to, even this limited objective has very little chance of success. However, Ukraine will benefit more if it changes its goals. This will require a policy that few Western countries and no one in President Zelensky's administration want to consider. An immediate ceasefire as proposed by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, and a negotiated solution on the best terms possible. Ukraine is facing a very narrow window to shift the momentum of the conflict in its favor. Even then, Russia still holds most of the cards. NATO only wants to seek a victory for Ukraine and a defeat for Russia. However, seeing through the issue, this is an unattainable outcome in the present or future. If the West does not accept reality, the most likely outcome for Ukraine is a military defeat, possibly including the loss of Odessa and more territories than Moscow's June 2024 ultimatum. It is a tough choice, and at this time, it is best for both Ukraine and Europe to seek a difficult but achievable negotiated solution, rather than ignoring reality and ultimately facing a military defeat. Thank you for watching the video. If you found it interesting and enjoyable, don't forget to like and subscribe to support our channel. For now, goodbye and see you in the next video.